and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 9th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin, Dowe, and I'll be serving as your host, and thank you so very much for sharing part of your Monday evening with us. Whether you're at home, relaxing in your living room, some of you may be laying in bed, others would have chosen to join us via social media. Any of the platforms that you have chosen, thank you so very much for allowing us to be a part of this evening and to share some of the thoughts. School opened 1 week, 1 day ago, and we are going to be just looking at some trends. So school rules, trends, balance, are they making sense in 2024? And I have with me two gentlemen. Normally you see ladies, right? But we have two gentlemen to speak about school rules and where they fit in this era. Gentlemen, I'll allow you to introduce yourselves and give your portfolios. The first gentleman to introduce himself, ignore his shirt, please.
Well, I'm happy. Good evening, Colin, and good evening to all our listeners and viewers. And I'm happy to hear you saying ignoring my shirt. Today, I'm joining you in the capacity as a parent. School's out, more like in, and I'm just saying that because that's the language that the young people will use now already. School's out is in, and there's a lot that's happening within our school systems that affects and challenges our young people in how they learn, what they learn, and their whole ability to be able to recognize the role and reasons why they're in school. It's only 5 years at I tell my son, make the best use of it. There are challenges on many sides, the issue of drugs, influence, social, and other.
But before we begin the program, because I see realize you're getting into the program, Eddie, and I will say Eddie, but you'll introduce yourself formally.
Yes. Thanks again for having me here, Colin. Thanks to all the listeners, and it's a pleasure being here. Tonight I'm here in a capacity as a father as well, but moreover as the president of the Parent Teachers Association of the Anglican High School.
Okay, so I have a father of a daughter and a father of a son. And
actually, I'm a father of two daughters and a son.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All within the secondary school system?
No, one in secondary, one primary, and one in start yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay, so that is daddy roles.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And Montee, let me start off with you, and please forgive me if I use Montee and Eddie interchangeably.
Yeah.
They're the same person. All right. But let me kick off with you as we address school rules. We look at trends. We look at the balance. Are students presented with a handbook at the start of school? I mean, and this should be the rules of engagement, as it were, to guide them over the 5 years as we focus on the secondary system. Are they issued with school handbooks to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. So here is how I would answer this. I think most of us, if all our viewers, and even you to a large extent, would understand the school system is structured in such a way that we have what we call an orientation, right? So this orientation always takes place right before the official opening of school. With this orientation, parents and students are equipped with guidelines, rules, and expectations in which they're supposed to be abided by. Example, uniform, how you should wear the uniform, right? Even we do that face-to-face. The orientation teams comes in a format of a face-to-face because they get introduced to the entire faculty and staff of the school, right? And so you make them acclimatize to the environment they're coming into. So whether it is whether it's the no cell phones or the way you wear your tie and your socks and the colors that you're expected to wear, the shoes that you're supposed to wear, all of these things are addressed. As a matter of fact, at the Anglican High School, they even go a step further. They may this year they even gave you an assignment. So when you're coming in, which you was able to even get some points towards your first what we call, I don't know if that's a familiar term with everybody, what's your first mark reading, right? So these things are done so that the students and the parents get acclimatized, because remember, these students...
So the students receive a handbook.
Yes.
In your mind's eye, and I know that you named a couple of things, what are some of the important aspects that's contained in the handbook? Because memories fade,
yeah.
So there must be a takeaway. Yes. So in that takeaway, what are some of the key things in that handbook?
Yes. So some of the key things in the handbook, the Anglican high school is a very proud institution, and one of the things that they overly reinforce is the way you wear their uniform, and by extension their tie, right? Because when you remove the tie, you may not be able to tell which school it is. So it is something that is reinforced about how you wear the school uniform, right, with the tie, and how you conduct yourself while you wear that uniform. It is very important because it is in keeping with the legacy of the school A.H.S, which in our acronym is always high standards, right? So this is over reinforced.
So
obviously,
A.H.S is not only Anglican High School, but always high standards. Got it?
Right. So we always reinforce this, and as PTA president, I always try to give some inspiring words to the. And I always try to focus a lot on the parents, because we always look at it as, okay, the students are going on, let me use our term, our achievers, right? We refer to our girls as achievers, right? When they come into this new institution, yes, they're coming into the institution, to the building, and all of its surroundings. But the parents is also coming into this new surroundings, because they have to be that support structure. And we always try our best to communicate why it is important that they have to be very important element, right, in making sure that these same students toe that line. Because at the end of the day, I don't have to tell you how manipulative or young people could be. You know, they could come home and say, well, the teacher said we could come to school with our phone today, when we know deep down, you know, that is not the truth, right? And it is we always try to convey that message as for parents, understanding and following the guidelines of the rules starts with you.
Okay.
Because you're the one that goes.
Let's switch over to the parents. So, our parents, you as a parent, was made familiar and exposed to the student handbook upon entry to the school?
The answer is unequivocally yes. And as Eddie said, it was their way of introducing you to the next chapter of not just your child or children's life, but your life as well. So you provided the document. They go through it with you in detail, so you can have a full appreciation. It gives you the opportunity to raise concerns, objections. Not necessarily that you figure if I object, that they would say, okay, let's change it. But it gives you an appreciation that you know fully well what is the reasonable standard that you'll be held to for the next 5 years. How the clothes, your uniform is carried. At his school, there's the issue of the length at which your hair can be grown. If you and I were at school now, Colin, we'll have no problems. Yeah, we'll have no issues. Yeah, but these guidelines are laid out to us quite openly. The challenge, though, is that individuals, and while you cannot just change it altogether.
Before we go into the challenges, in your mind, what are some of the key aspects in that handbook that should resonate with parents and know and students, but as a parent, resonate with parents and know that is my guide. These are the laws for the next 5 years.
It basically borders on the whole concept that we're on a journey that leads you to at the end of the road is success. Your relationship between your boy and the staff, the teachers. There are rules that says to you, this is what is expected of you. This is what the boys can expect from the faculty. And if each one of us, we meet at that point where we understand you fulfill your obligation, they fulfill their obligation. The issue of penalties, consequences for your inactions. Those are told to you from the get-go, right? So they do not leave it for you for them to assume or for it to be stumbled upon. If you have any concerns about anything, what time you get to school, yes, what are the co-curricular activities that you can get involved with, how would a teacher or the staff deal with you wanted to come with, let's say, electronic devices.
So let's get in some of the rules now. Yeah. Attendance. Who monitors attendance and truancy and the consequences thereof? Eddie?
Yeah. Well, at the Anglican High School, I can speak to the students are expected to be in school, I would say, by 5 minutes to 8, right? If obviously the persons that would be monitoring persons who come in late, you have the structure of whether it's prefects, teachers, there's a number, and then you still have that, we have securities, so there are different layers of ways of knowing whether or not you're coming to school early. And I must identify there's still some leeway, because there's coming to school late whereby, okay, the bell ring and you're just on the bottom of the hill coming up, and then you have who come in late, that's really the first class start, and there's no way inside. So there's different levels of it. I want to also speak to that when you talk about uniform. At our school, the socks is supposed to be knee-high.
Right. Before I get into uniform, let me I want to just stick to that of attendance, because you must first show up.
Yes.
Are we tolerant, therefore, of, you say 8 o'clock, but I reach 5 past? No, are we inculcating, because I heard you there, Eddie, are we inculcating that 5 past and 8 is same thing?
No, not at all, not at all. I wouldn't say that that is something that we encourage at the Anglican High School. As a matter of fact, let me just give you just how important we put truancy at the same event that we have as you enter the school. Every year religiously, the first child, and this is something that is not announced in advance, that reaches to the school first on the premises receives a gift from the school.
Well, the secret is out.
Well, hopefully they forget by next. Hopefully they forget. And this is done in a grand way, whereby they come up at the assembly hall in front of the entire audience, parents and their peers, and they're given a token of appreciation, whether it's books, some things that they can use within the school life.
Right.
So it is a motivational factor to try to get them to understand the importance of getting to school on time, because getting on school on time is just a starting block to get into work on time and get into interviews on time.
And that's the point.
Yes.
Joseph, what are some of the consequences for being tardy or being absent?
Well, my son is at the Presentation Brothers College. Yes, Eddie, I know. I broke rank. Yeah. just to get that out. What happens at the Presentation Brothers College, Joe? There's quite a unique relationship between parents, students, and I say the teachers, that is, the student, and the rest of the faculty. So what they encourage the open communication. So, for example, one of the things that they use, as you talk about the technology, is that of WhatsApp groups that allows you to communicate. But what they do, though, is that there is a very strict regiment and a relationship between on a very frequent, for example, school is just open, and our first session with our teachers is tomorrow, right? Where they would encourage the boys, where they push them. So they may not necessarily, there's detentions. They use all of these different things. On your card, your grade card is indicated. They make special reference to your attendance. The teachers will talk to you about your attendance and on how your lack of attendance, how it affects you. You come to school 5 minutes late. That 5 minutes that you're late could possibly mean the difference between an A and a B. You being able to understand what the teacher is saying and what the teacher is insane. So they allow you from a very early age to appreciate the need to get to school in time, and value your school day.
Okay, all right. Eddie, you are getting into uniforms. So the schools will address shoes, socks, and share about
So if we to start from the ground up, from the foundation, we address even the color of the shoes, which is black. The thickness of the sole of the shoes, so you can't wear shoes that is heels or whatever the case may be. The lace, because you might have a black shoes, but they might be adorned with other little logos, and none of that is accepted. And as I said, you expected to wear knee-high socks, and your skirt. It is detailed, whether the pleats is, what do they call it? I don't want to misquote it, either it's knife pleats or whatever the case may be, and the length of the skirt, basically meeting the socks, because the school attire, it is supposed to be conservative, right? It is supposed to be respectful, and it's supposed to be that dress rehearsal of how you conduct yourself when you're in certain environments.
Let me ask this: are uniforms necessary, and why uniforms to begin with?
If I have to answer this, I would say uniforms are very necessary. And I think even my answer here may even kind of, and I don't want to jump start it, but here's why I think uniforms are necessary. It is a tool that is best used when it comes to structure, people understanding that they need to follow guidelines. It's just like how you go to work and you're expected to dress a particular way. Uniform is a version of that. And anytime you tend to deviate from uniform, whereby people have that freedom to wear what they want, you're going to have other things creeping in, like competition because I want to wear the best brand of shoes, I want to wear the best brand of clothing. These are the things that would foster and create conditions that will bring in things like bullying, because when people figure they're wearing the best brands and whatever the case may be, they may look down on other people that is not in a position to do likewise. So that is why I think, in a nutshell, uniform is a very important tool, especially at that point in life, if you're going to be teaching structure for young people or achievers to pass on in their future life.
Okay. No baggy pants, no gun mud pants. Those are part of the rules. In 2024, Joseph, really?
Yes, Colin, in 2024. As Eddie says, the whole conformity to a way of life. I think school introduces that concept, that conversation to you. Because at the end of the day, as you go into adulthood, you are now conforming to the society in which you reside, right? That lesson must first be learned at home, which is at school. School teaches you that. But the reverse, though, the whole idea of uniform, it serves its place and time. It acts as a code, an identifier, a marker. I am an employee of. And it allows you, and it is intended to allow you to develop that sense of pride, that sense of ownership that says, I belong to, and this is my way of showing my conformity to. And that's what it actually
So if I'm to bring it, because we're just out of the Olympics, so I'll make several bad analogies along the way.
Right.
But that red, green, and gold, of which we're so proud of, we don't see Anderson in one uniform, Kirani in another uniform, and Haley in another uniform, but rather we saw the Grenada brand represented at Olympics. And is this what you're saying, that the school uniform fosters likewise?
Oneness, team spirit, uniqueness. This is what's unique about, because each school has its own brand, its own identity. And the idea is that we will then take these young men and young women, and we want to channel their energy. They come from different homes, different backgrounds, but hopefully we have a vision. We are on a journey, and the idea is that we're going to take take you on that path so that 5 years from now, when you've been through the gates of the Happy Hill Secondary School, the St. Joseph's Convent, they can of course maintain their esprit de corps being part of that school, but you now can say, you know what, I feel proud that I went to the GBSS, I went to the Presentation Brothers College, and that's the identity that you can now take that and sell that to another generation.
Eddie, I'm going to attack you personally. Length of hair. Some schools would say 1 centimeter, others would say no longer than a ½ inch. I'm speaking for the boys now. Is this still relevant in 2024?
I think it is. I think it is relevant because there's a time and place for everything, right? And as I say, maybe you and you all may not have that problem because when it comes to length, right?
Of hair.
Of hair. Of hair, right? But one of the things we inculcate in the Anglican high school is that we put a lot of emphasis on neatness of hair, right? And that your hair is not adorned with any flashy, colorful. So it is clearly defined what you can wear. So you can wear white ribbons, you can wear bubbles, and nowhere you can wear any of these, odd colors. It is in keeping with the colors of the school, right? And these days, people, especially it's a girls' school, we can't even think about the multiplicity of styles that there is. But you are expected to wear styles that are age appropriate. And I said age appropriate because I guarantee you, if these things are not kept in check, you're going to end up with a situation where you have girls in classes combing out the jerry curls or the whatever these styles or whatever the kid.
You just showed your age, right? I think jerry curl is a little bit out, but go ahead.
I just, for the sake of a name, right? Because then when they should be in class, they're in the bathroom freshen up a hairstyle. Right? Your hairstyle that you come to school, it should take you through that school day without any interruption. There shouldn't be no replaiting of hair. There shouldn't be any spraying or moisturizing of hair. That is not what school is for. School is for learning. And so the conditions and the surroundings and the atmosphere should be just that. And that is why we, all as we go through these rules, there is a thought process behind every one of them because school is not about distraction. One of the things about school, you have to be focused, you have to be attentive. We reside in an area that we already have so much distraction, right? Being so close to the road, Lotus Lane. That is literally the highway for all of the trailer trucks and the big tankers with the trucks with the loudest horns. And young ladies have to, they have to overcome these hurdles.
Let me
you can add to that.
Let me ask, and I get the focus.
Yeah.
Joseph, are we being a bit hypocritical? If, for example, in a boys' school, you say to the boys that their hair length should not be more than ½ inch, or whatever the rule is, but the teachers have some nappy heads, unkept. Well, is that being hypocritical? Because one would anticipate that the leadership demonstrates the example to the boys. Saying the boys, you can't do this, but look at me, and I can't help but look at you because you're in front of the class. Are we doing justice? Are we bringing about respect for the rules when this is what they're seeing? Or because they're just aspiring to something else, and therefore the rules, they'll just abide by it just for so?
I will answer this carefully because the one thing you have to appreciate that the Ministry of Education, they too, teachers, do have a code of conduct, a code of dress that the ministry has subscribed, that they assign to teachers. So it's not that we're being hypocritical. The difference, though, for teachers, they're grown adults, the question is whether or not the ministry is going to marshal their troops, monitor so as to ensure that their teachers comply and meet the same standards.
Let's be careful with grown adults, because there are dress codes at workplaces, inclusive of hairstyles.
Correct.
All right? So it's not that I'm an adult, I can do what I want.
Right.
People have to abide by the rules of the organization.
Right, so, and the ministry is quite detailed as to what teachers are allowed. Even the whole issue of going to school with your toes out, simple as it may seem, or insignificant, those are rules that they have to abide by. The difference, though, is that as an adult being under the ministry, the question is the ministry going to enforce the rules at the same speed at which the school will enforce it against their students? So the answer is no, and therefore it can be conceived as though you're being hypocritical, but that we have to appreciate in society their rules and norms and expectations. When we go to the courthouse, everybody knows reasonably the way to behave, right? The way you were dressed to go to a wedding is not the same way you were dressed to go to football, which is taking place at the National Stadium now.
Be careful with that statement these days.
But
So
Eddie,
it's about drawing the line.
Should the PTA insist, even if the ministry seems to be lapsing in enforcement of the rules governing teachers as well, because they too serve as examples for the children?
Yes. So at the Anglican high school, there is a governing body, managers, a board of directors, right? So there is oversight when it comes to that of the management and the day-to-day management of the school. And as he correctly said, the teachers have to, the Ministry of Education handbook may be the guideline, but the persons that have to be able to implement and to make sure that these rules are adhered to is the management of the school and the hierarchy of the school, right? And I just didn't even want to go a little step further. It is not just the teachers and the students that is in the dynamic, the parents as well, or even briefed and warned that when they come to the school, there is a code of dress, right? You can't come to the school just dressed anywhere provocatively, whether it's the shortest or the sleeve on the, on all the, So all of these are taken into consideration because of the environment in which you're trying to create and all the persons that is within that environment. So whether it's the teachers, the students, and the parents, when they have to come to the school, whether it is for a PTA meeting, whether it's for disciplinary, whether it's just for social gatherings. Even when you go to the funnest events that the school have, which is a school fair, and so you are expected to dress a particular way, not because it's fet mode or party mode or fun mode. You can just dress any old way.
Let's step away a little bit from the uniforms, but still in things that you have to bring to school. And there's been quite a bit of conversations over school bags. And not the Jan Sport school bags, but I believe there's a ground sprayer, spray ground bags.
I hope we get to that right.
That is now the craze. Some schools have moved to ban it. In my understanding, it costs anywhere $400, $500 for a bag. And some schools saying that the presence of the bag on the school grounds have been causing some inappropriate behaviors. Banning of school bags,
Banning of a school bag, it may seem draconian, it may seem extreme. Anything that does not conform to, anything that disrupts, anything that causes deviant behavior, any element of a child's school day or life that allows them, that sways them away from the proper functioning administration of the school, it must be addressed. But whether or not it's by banning, how you get to the point.
But what is this craze though? What's the craze?
It's young people.
Don't just blame young people.
Well, I want to say it's young people in the context that society evolves, and you would always find there are different things that's trending.
Right.
Prior to the show, Eddie and I was talking about the days when you had travel fox and acid wash and rayon.
Right.
If you went to a school fair and you didn't have a rayon shirt, boy, what's wrong with you? You wouldn't wear your acid wash, or you had your Paco jeans.
So who is at risk in having this type of bag? I mean, what's the harm?
So I want to speak to that of the when it comes to the policy of the Anglican High School, because I want to make this absolutely clear here tonight. The Anglican High School has never moved, and I would like to be able to speak with a certain level of authority, will never move to ban any school bag. All the Anglican High School asks is that you adhere to those rules that we underlined previously. The colors, we expect you to be dark colors. So if the spray ground bag falls within the ambit of that, so if you can get a all black spray ground bag, so be it. If you can get an all gray, dark blue, once it falls within those characteristics and within those descriptions, you can wear your bag, right? So I just wanted to make that absolutely clear. Yes, I know, I've heard that there are schools that have moved to ban the bag, but I can say that that is not the case in the Anglican High School.
Okay, we'll take up the bags. I think it's time for our first break, and we'll come back to have a conversation on the banning of bags.
High impact doors and windows can be yours. Now available at Caribbean Shutters Windows and Doors, agents for Domus Windows and Doors. Get custom-made UPVC products with a 20-year warranty on frames and a 5-year warranty on hardware, complete with installation and so much more. Visit our showroom at 11 Frequente Industrial Park, St. George, or call 439-1293, or visit our website at www.domuswindows.com.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Thinking about your new home? Think easy. Think a Republic Bank Home Easy Loan. Think affordable. Think convenience. Think Republic.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3. Republic makes home easy.
Wow, that was such a breeze.
Own your home with ease.
So whether laying that first brick or purchasing an existing home, we've got you covered. Republic Bank will get you those keys hassle-free in no time.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Apply for a Home Easy Loan today for a chance to win a cash prize. Getting your new home is easy with Republic Bank.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Terms and conditions apply.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
viewers and listeners. We're talking school rules, current trends, and the balance between both. Joseph, before we left off, you were talking about the bags and some schools moving to ban the bags. You had a comment.
I think the question would be why? Because you would probably think it has to be, there must be a reason why. And I think the conversation goes beyond what the colors are, but is the effect that it is having. In society, there would always be trends. And that's one of the bags that is trending now. It has an economic value to it. And what is happening, our young people, they're trying to conform to whatever it is, a style, a fashion. So it's not fashionable, if you are of that school age, to have one of those bags. To not have one is as though to say to the rest of the world, Eddie, I am not in the in thing. And many students, for various reasons, whether it's just for economic reasons, they're just being mischievous, if they don't fit into it, they would then choose to disenfranchise some other individual. And I think for that reason...
Stop the diplomatic, the teething. Right? No.
Well, that's fine.
But it's important, because how can we say that theft trumps a bag, the bag that you carry? So I prefer to turn into a thief rather than to have the ordinary JanSport bag or whichever one it is.
JanSport is not trending anymore.
So I'll be a thief.
So you rather become a thief so that you can conform to that social norm that exists within the school.
Where do I go with that bag? So I leave the bag at school. When I come to school, I put my books in the bag, I walk around the school. When I'm leaving, I put it back into the JanSport and I hide the bag.
Many of them, as far as I understand, are not necessarily keeping the bag. Those are actually engaging in thieving, I understand. And not those without the bags, you know. They already have their bags. They now becoming the suppliers. It's a school trade. So if I get your bag has a market value of about $500. If I can supply it to somebody else for $350, I make a profit on it. Because what is happening there, Colin, it speaks into a bigger trading, a business, an underlying business that runs within the school. The bags just becomes what trending now. 6 months from now, it may not be those bags. It may be something else that is introduced to that underground market where children, young people, they have all these other needs. They need cash. So whatever it takes, like drug dealers, they have to satisfy that crave. For some, it's just about being with the bag, and you'll be surprised. There are those, I heard one guy said to me, Eddie, he got a bag and he painted one side with a different color. When he went to school, he's arguing, that's not your bag. It's blue on the other side. Upon closer inspection, the child's name is written on the inside. So they will go through all of these devious means, and it begs the question, what is it, guys, Grenada, that's driving that?
And so we need to unpack this. I cannot understand going home with a bag that mom or dad did not purchase for you. Going home with a bag worth $400, $500. I cannot understand the black market within a school system where a child will have at his or her disposal $400 to hands up for a bag. I have difficulty in understanding those. How did we get here?
Are we going to be honest, Eddie, or are we going to...
I'll be... And I would like to tie this back to a question that you asked early on. Is uniform important? And remember some of the things I highlighted why uniform is important, because not having uniform leads to other things. And I may have used bullying as one of the examples because everybody want to be trending. The bag is just another piece of accessories. It's just like any other piece of clothing, right? And as a result, now we see what sometimes going into trends can lead to. But the overarching problem is that we are discussing a symptom of a larger problem. The problem that creates the conditions for such to happen. Without, as you correctly said, I could tell you for me, in my day, if I came over with a pencil that wasn't mine, I had to give a whole monologue where I get it, why they give it to me, whatever the case may be. And And I don't understand too how somebody could come home with something that you didn't purchase for them. So it speaks to that of a larger problem we have. And I'm a very, very big advocate when it comes to these things. And I always say to people, I think we have a serious parenting problem in our island. And, or I shouldn't say effective parenting or lack of parenting. I always tell people there's a difference between providing and parenting. Providing food, shelter, clothing has nothing to do with parenting. Parenting is about it is equipping your offspring with how to acclimatize to society, how to behave, expectations, norms, the do's and don'ts, discipline, foundational principles that they can take with them along in life, so they can be valuable contributing members of society. And if you don't do that and you don't do it consistently, because consistency is one of the themes of effective parenting. You can't choose to be a parent. You can't choose to tell your son when you see your son or your daughter come home with something that's not right now. Where you get that, right? And you do your investigation. And if it requires you to go to the school and dig deeper and put them on the spot, all of the things you have to do, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a teachable moment to them and say, okay, not to do it again. And the reason why they have this free reign of people think that they can do such is because they're either not being corrected, they're not being they're not being paid attention to.
Straight values. It comes down to straight values. I smiled when Eddie said, when I was growing up, the rule is it's not yours. My mother used to say it this way: if it's a pencil, both of you can't sleep in the house here tonight. Make up your mind. You need to make up your mind. If the pencil is stained, you go in. So we grew up where we were inculcated with strict values, specific values that was handed down from generation to generation.
The value we're speaking of, don't be envious of what other people has.
And that was one of those values. You don't know how he or she got it. Maybe she had to pull the devil by his tail. You don't know. When you were working, the other one is sleeping. If you want something, I was telling to people, I grew up when I was in secondary school. I worked every summer. School's out, I go to work. My mother says to me, if you need something in life, because I'm a single mom, and I'm specifically talking about single moms because the structure of society has changed, has evolved a lot. But my mother said to me, anything you want in life, you work for it. You want a good education? You work for it. You see something you want to purchase? Listen, you're going to work so that it gives you the spending power, that economic ability to make a purchase. Parents are surrendering those for what they call this instantaneous glorification. So they see their children with, how could you see your child coming home with a bag? That is, you know you didn't spend money for. You didn't give him. But you ask him nothing. And you should not just be satisfied with just asking him, who's the bag for? And he says, well, ABC. You should want to be able to know for a fact, investigate where this bag is. Even if it's an auntie, he says, give it to him. You then have to say to auntie, listen, this might be your niece, your nephew. Hello. Any conversation that speaks to what he has to have on his person. Speak with me first. But our parents, they're becoming younger. They have not learned, they themselves, at 21 years, 25 years. You ask yourself the question, Colin, what sort of values can a 25-year-old impart onto a 12, 13-year-old? You cannot give that which you yourself, that you don't have.
It means, though, because, forgive me, and this is my bias, I don't blame young people for anything, because I believe they exhibit the values that were inculcated.
Of course.
And if that 25-year-old doesn't have the values, it means that the seniors didn't pass it on. So it may just come back to those of you who are more than 25 in inculcating, though, those values, because that's critically important. But in general, who are these students who are walking around with $500 bags? I mean, who are they?
But when you ask who are the students that are walking around with $500 bags, For the risk of being a little bit controversial,
Go ahead.
and I know people, as the saying, there's one to come for you when you. I think our parents have lost their barometer as to what is appropriate and what is no longer appropriate. And I want to make this absolutely clear. I am not in any way against a parent rewarding a child for good deeds, good work in school. So I want to make that absolutely clear, right? So you use sometimes a big gift or whatever the case may be for, as I say, you did well in school or something that you did, right? But just take a step back a little away from the bag and we'll come right back to it. We have students walking around with $2,000 phones. If that is your barometer, when you're going to give a teenager a phone that was the target market of that device was meant for a businessman, right? And you think that was an appropriate gift to give to that child, then where is the ceiling? When they get to be 16, you give them that when they're 13, 14. When they get to be 16, then what are you giving them? The only way you go from there is an upgrade for the next best thing, right? So I use the phone analogy to show that the bag is just, as I said, is just one of many of the other things. I saw somebody post something, it was around fair season. How much is enough money to give to a child to go to fair? Colin, you would not believe you would not believe. I was hearing people say, well, you can't give them less than $500 to go to fair.
How much for a sugar cake these days?
Well, I wonder what's going on. You can't give them less than 300. You can't give them, and I was like, am I living in an alternate reality?
So are we saying, and whether it's the bags, the phones, the jewelry, etc., are these really a distraction at school, and by virtue of that, they ought not be permitted on the school compound?
Well, it should not be a distraction. And just before we tag back to your question, I mean, the issue of how much you should give to a child, I think, comes down to some basic values. We need to be able to teach what it goes on again to values. Allowing children to be able to understand and parents having that conversation. Listen, from a very early age, you have to allow your children to understand. When you go to the supermarket, they are not the ones that are going to dictate which cereal that they buy. Yes, you need cereal. However, if mommy and daddy can't afford the cereal, you have to indicate that to them at a very early age to appreciate the values of that what mommy and daddy is doing. Because you know how hard you are working. Giving them the bag, I don't think giving them the bag is a problem. Because I may change, for example, my son has a phone, but his phone, he got it's when I upgrade mine, he gets his. So you may see his phone and you're thinking, whoa, why should this child have a Samsung 123? That's not the case. And I give him the phone and I teach him, listen to me, I'm giving you this phone. And you have to be able to appreciate the fact that daddy's working hard. Daddy is doing this because, as I say, it's an investment in you, and you have to be able to appreciate that. When you go to the supermarket, I'm not buying you X, Y, and Z because I have money. I want you to be comfortable, yes, but I want you to be able to appreciate having the money. And I think that's what parents need to be able to teach in the kids. Whether the bag is $1 or $500, I'm going to invest it to you, but you have to be able to appreciate it. Why am I giving you a phone? I'm giving you a phone not so that you go and bling. I'm giving you a phone so that it's a means of communication between us. So there must be those values and barriers that are set.
How do we get to those values and barriers? Simply because we are in a situation where students are stealing bags. Students are doing things that are illegal in order to acquire the money to purchase bags. And, in schools you would say no to flashy jewelry, etc., to keep the uniformity. But then the bag, which is a necessary implement for school, has now become a distraction and a prompt for inappropriate behaviors. How do we teach the values of those students? Say that, you know, the books that I carry in my bag is more important than the bag. The information that I have in my head is more important than the brand of the bag, and that is what delivering on school means.
Parents need to be able to teach their children and understand and appreciate the reason for their education. Yeah. You have to. I mean, I'm an old GBSS boy, and when I say that, I mean, when you went to the GBSS, I mean, just for those of us, I mean, good night to you, Mr. Ashby. You understood, and people used to complain about Victor Ashby, how he treated you, and I told people, the way he treated you, Eddie, when you were in Form 1 and Form 3, when you got to third and fifth form, he treated you different. The first 3 years is intended for you to break you in. This is the way of life of the GBSS. This is why you're here. He gets you on a clear path. There's an agenda that is set here. We are now going to inculcate values that allows you to be a better citizen, a citizen that can contribute towards economic growth and development 5 years from now. That is not just a job that is left up to the parents or the teachers. Parents, again, called in it. And it comes back to what Eddie said initially. There is a breakdown at home. So what parents are doing, and I make no apology about it, they raise their monsters at home, and they send them off. I heard a parent saying Monday, well, teachers, thank God the holiday for me is over. I'm sending him to you. I'm going to the beach. Why should you be, what? So they're busy and they have no, I'm going to the beach, I'll be relaxed. You at home take responsibility for your child's development.
Are those parents at home, or are there parents who are attempting to overcompensate for their absence? So are these children some barrel children, in that the parents are away, they pack a barrel and they send it down, and they send down the expensive things as a compensation for their absence? And then you made the point of difference between providing things and parenting.
So you could not have said it better, you know, Colin, because you may refer to it as barrel children, just packing a barrel and selling, right? But there are parents right here in the geographic space of Grenada that better they were barrel parents, because what they do is that they funnel niceties to their children to keep them quiet, right? Because they either don't have the time to engage with their children and spend time with them, right? So hence the reason why we become a society whereby now we go back to the phone, right? Part of the reason why the children know about all these trends and brands, because they spend so much time on there, right? So when you have created and given them the tools,
the gateway,
and that conduit to go to every little, whether negative or positive, right? And you're absent because either it may be demands from your job or your social life, or you're just somebody that was never understood parenting or was never taught, right? You never learned it along the way, right? So hence the reason why you have these conditions created, right? And I know some people may listen to me and say, well, you feel you're the best parent or whatever it is, but parenting is hard work. It is hard work. It's about being consistent, right? And I would not proclaim that I have the golden book on parenting. Sometimes you learn as you go along, but you have to be willing to change. And one of the things I would like to tell fellow parents, people listening to the show, I don't prescribe to, even if you can afford something, that everything a child wants, they should get.
Correct.
You understand? Because if I would argue that if you bring up a child in the image of, Mommy, I want this, they get it. Daddy, I want this. What happens to that time? What happens to that day? Life does send us some serious curveballs. What happened to that day when you cannot provide?
Well, what happens the day that you're no longer obligated to provide and they're an adult?
Then they look for another mommy
They
or
find
daddy,
they either get a sugar daddy, a sugar mommy,
Right.
or they may find secondary means to satisfy that agenda. But one of the things I must, even before we get even into the calls, there is a challenge with fathers, absence of men in the home. And even when there isn't, there is the challenge of being able to understand as parents what your roles are. Yeah? There are certain things that mommy can teach a child that daddy may not be able to teach a child. He may learn, but mommy may teach it better. But there's an absence, and there are young men, a lot of men, and even those who are around, who do not understand, Colin, their role to their children. So, for instance, we grew up in where we say, what are little girls made of? Sugar and spice, and everything nice. What are little boys made of?
frogs and snails and puppy dog.
So, in order to be a true man, in order to hone into my masculinity, I have to leave my boy child for him to learn the hard way. So the girls, you pamper them. The way you're going, be back at 6 o'clock. Why should your boy child be outside at midnight? Why should he? And those are the values that they grew up, and they don't know better because that's what they've been through all of their life, and they go into adulthood. But I want to say to you men out there that the challenges that you face growing up as a young man should not overcompensate and become the excuse for the failure that you become as a father. I say to young men, I say to fathers, one of the things that we don't do, and I said to Eddie, we don't lose our children when they get to secondary school, Colin. We don't. We lose them at 5 and 6. Those are the ages that we lose them. You recognize it when they get to the teenage years. They start to form their own identity, so they may think it's okay to question you and they challenge you. But for me, I don't believe in beating. But one of the things I say to my son, let's have a conversation. Tell me what's on your mind. Because we have to be able to appreciate that our children, boy, girl, we have to become their best friend. If they start off at a very early age communicating with you, but here what we do, Colin, we tell our children, because that's how we grew up, stop talking, shut up. And what they do eventually, you know what, Colin? Because as younger children, that's what they are. They become chatterbox. But when they get to an older age, when they can control their emotions, well, my mommy told me shut up all my life. So they stop talking. And what do? They go into a different world. They get conformity to their friends and others.
Let's go into just disciplining, Eddie, and some of the school rules, coming back to school rules that impacts on discipline. How are these enforced? Is there support, management of school, Ministry of Education in your mind in order for the principals, deans, etc. to execute the disciplining of students?
So one of the things I want in my tenure as the PTA president, I think my biggest issue is the speed in which things happen, right? And I understand from a Ministry of Education standpoint, you have to deal with a lot of schools.
Hold on, you mean the speed at which it doesn't happen?
Yes.
I just want to be clear on that.
Yes.
When it comes to the ministry, at which it doesn't happen.
Yes, but this is not my desire to bash the ministry or in any way, shape, or form. But I think sometimes the urgency of now is not appreciated. There are situations that sometimes can be dangerous, and because there's a process or maybe even a handbook that we may not even be aware of, so that you have to go through it and then it has to go to the management, and a lot of things could go wrong while that is happening. But I could say, I just want to use, for instance, I made reference to the cell phones, right? One of the reasons and the discipline why we are so adamant about no cell phones at the Anglican High School is because it becomes a tool of distraction first and foremost, right? And it becomes a tool that could be used maliciously. Imagine, and I think sometimes maybe parents don't even see it, because we live in an age of technology. Imagine your daughter go into the bathroom stall, and children play very, very stupid games. And one of their peers decide to bust into the stall and film them in a compromising position, right? The children use the phones to do videos, all different shapes and forms. So the school position is a very strict one. If you are caught with a phone, it will be confiscated. In order for you to get it back, you have to pay for it, and you still will not get it. If you have to get it before the end of the school term, right, you have to pay for it, right? The only time you can get it without payment would be at the end of the school term. So that is used as a deterrent for persons, and to me, I still think that could be a little bit too lax.
Do you believe schools are acting swiftly and severely enough when there are breaches to discipline? Or is it a challenge that you have to go through so many different processes that there is a disconnect in terms of administration of punishment and when the act actually occurred?
And yes, and that's what I said. That's one of my frustrations. And sometimes I sympathize with the different institutions, because I think there's a true desire for them to do good work and for things to happen fast. And we understand there's process, but maybe we have to come to a place whereby there is actually as part of the staff structure, maybe a sitting ministry worker in each institution, right? Which basically gives their responsibilities to give ball-by-ball feedback and be able to fast-track some of the issues. I'm just saying, because I'm trying to see what can be done, because, you would have, because of record, and so you may have to write a report to say, okay, this happened on this day, whatever the case may be. And I don't want to speak to any specific thing that has happened, but I have been privy to board meetings whereby, as I said, situations have become dangerous, and we have to either replace, even sometimes in some cases, a teacher, right? And the process in which it has to go through, right? So I think it does not happen fast enough. I think there should be ways, and look for creative ways to improve that. And in doing so, maybe we could see if we could narrow the gap in these pockets of problems and problem spots all over.
Okay, viewers and listeners, it's time for our final break. So we'll take this break and we'll come back and then learn what are parents' roles in the discipline of students.
How do you choose your toilet paper? Just because it's soft and nice. That's how I choose my toilet paper. Made right here in the Isle of Spice. Cherished space off Harbor Bay. Super value every day. The price is right and locally they're made. Support local when you purchase Cherish and other quality brands from Greenidge paper products.
As we get ready to give thanks, the long Thanksgiving weekend. Legends Promotions presents the 18th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Saturday, October 26th, Grenada Trade Center at 7:30 p.m. Featuring the 1980 Calypso Monarch, Survivor. Together with Stubbles. 10 times Calypso Monarch, Scholar. Alongside Luther, Tobago Crusoe, and 7 times Soca, and 10 times Road March King, Super Blue. Super Blue. Tickets cost $60 and are available at all Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies, Wall Street, Grenville, and Guelph, Springs Shopping Center, St. David's Pharmacy, Clear Vision Eye Care Center, on the Carinage, and Gittins Pharmacy, St. George's. It's the 18th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Saturday, October 26th, Thanksgiving weekend, Grenada Trade Center, 7:30 p.m. You can't afford to miss this one.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Thinking about your new home? Think easy. Think a Republic Bank Home Easy Loan. Think affordable. Think convenience. Think Republic.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3. Republic makes home easy.
Wow, that was such a breeze.
Own your home with ease.
So whether laying that first brick or purchasing an existing home, we've got you covered. Republic Bank will get you those keys hassle-free in no time.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Apply for a Home Easy loan today for a chance to win a cash prize. Getting your new home is easy with Republic Bank.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Terms and conditions apply.
Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. We going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Montrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
Viewers and listeners, we're speaking school rules, trends, and balance. And before we are speaking about discipline. But before I get there, 440-1252, that's the number. You certainly can weigh in. Joseph, what should parents do? Should parents just back off and allow the school administrations to handle the discipline? Because we have stories of parents going down in the school. Is this appropriate? Does it work? Is it needed?
If it's needed, that's a separate question. What should be allowed to happen is that I think parents should be able to trust. That's about trust. When you send your children to school, you are saying to the teachers, the principals, I'm entrusting my children in your care for the 24 hours, for the next 5 years. So there should be an open, engaged conversation that I'm trusting you to have the best intent for my children, right? There are boundaries that you can and cannot cross. Over the years, you've had challenges on both sides, where you've had cases of abuse that you've actually seen it. But I still think, though, even if while it exists, a parent needs to be quite cognizant that you do your child more harm by creating this open confrontation with your teachers and principals. The day you decide to walk in as though you're from a Delta Force squad and behave as though you're Rambo, that's all that child needs. If you don't have discipline to control yourself and respect their teachers, that's the last thing they need. They would not respect those teachers.
We have our first caller online. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Am I on?
You are on. Go ahead.
Yes. Before I make a little contribution, I want to pay tribute to a long-serving teacher who has just gone to the great beyond. Miss Dowe, who taught at the St. Joseph's Convent for donkey's years. In the days when St. Joseph's Convent girls, when she got almost 100% passes in CXA English every year. So, may your soul rest in eternal peace.
Amen.
Now, I'd like to be on the more positive side, and there were two young men who recently began at secondary school, neighbors, and I had to tell them, give them a little word of advice. Three things. Number one, you're going to a secondary school, a good one. I won't call any names, but it's a secondary school. And so take it seriously. Learn your lesson, listen to the teachers. Especially if you don't understand something, put up your hand and say, Miss, so I didn't get that point. Or if you're shy to put up your hand, So that's one thing. Number two, take part in something in the school life, whether it is the Scout, the Cadets, the Jump Corps, the choir, whatever. Just be part of the school, the life of the school. And the third thing is learn the ABC. So they said to me, but sir, I learned the ABC since I was in kindergarten. I told them it's a different ABC. The new ABC that you have to learn is avoid bad company. Avoid bad company. If you do these three things, your school life will be very fruitful, and it will be to your benefit and your parents' benefit.
Thank you very much, caller. And three important lessons. Take school seriously, be an involved community member, and avoid bad company, the ABCs.
Yes. Yeah. But Colin, I wanted to touch on it. Is like how you put it. Should parents just back off? And I would say unequivocally no. I don't want your parents to back off. I want them to be involved, but be involved in the right way, right? It is important for us as parents to be able to be an example that we show our children how to deal with conflict. Conflict resolution is an important thing. What are you showing your daughter or son? If you're going to show up to a school, for instance, right, and decide to want to get into a physical entanglement with a teacher because of a disagreement.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Welcome, caller. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm listening to the program and it's very interesting. Good evening to the gentleman there.
Yes.
I would like to make a contribution. The Ministry of Education under the last government attempted to get rid of the handbooks various secondary schools had containing their rules and their regulations, saying that they were not legal because they didn't go through the law, whatever it was. And this resulted in a lot of indiscipline because some schools just got totally fed up and didn't bother. And I know what I'm talking about because I was a part of it.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller.
I don't know if my ears is playing tricks on me, but I wouldn't bet that might be one of our legacy principals, Miss St. Francis.
How could you not recognize that?
Right?
I would not call any names, but the idea though is while there should be guidelines, yes, but that student handbook, and the question really is, if I'm to ask you gentlemen, whether there should be a universal handbook. In other words, how should secondary school students behave? What should we expect of a student within the secondary school system in Grenada? So certainly not speak of no handbook, but maybe rather than in PBC it's half an inch and in SAS it's 3/4 of an inch in terms of haircuts, we say, 0.6 inches across the board. I mean, the question is whether or not we looked at that, but we do have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Great program. There's two things I want to add. The bullying is a concern for me, but I think parents may have dropped the ball and actually helped to create that problem. You see, a parent who can afford the spray ground bag and decide to purchase it for the child, that's on them. But you can't afford it, and you go out and instead of purchasing a regular bag, you purchase a knockoff. Now, bullying is a no-no across the board, but I think sometimes we have to ensure that we do not create an environment where the student who is not so trained to be kind to their fellow student would now go out and bully that child. So I think that is one of the things parents need to look at. And secondly, my final point is this. I am not defined by what I wear on my foot chainsaw on my back. And we as parents need to get our children to appreciate that, right? If you have a Jordan on your foot, it doesn't mean you are more special, you're a better human being, you're more intelligent. It doesn't mean that. Your self-worth should not be tied to any of these things. And if we as parents, we leave that out so our children see it, we lead by example, then it's not going to be an issue for them. Right? And I think until we get to that place where we have our children understand, listen, you are special, you are precious, you don't need to have bag this, that, and the other, or shoes this, that, and the other to be special, we're going to have some issues. But gentlemen, great program. I'm truly enjoying it. And let me say this, after what happened on GBN this morning and the blows men got, gentlemen, thank you for representing.
Thank you very much. And let's just reinforce the point the caller made. Air Jordans in your feet don't mean you can slam dunk. And a spray ground bag don't mean you're getting straight A's. And this, being able to dunk and getting the A's are more important than the sneakers.
But here is the challenge.
And the bag.
And I agree with the caller 100%, but herein lies resides the challenge, is that we've grown up with children where we've allowed the idiot box, as they call it, to become the author of their lives. Because why? A parent may make the excuse, I have to do 2 jobs, I have to do an evening class. So what happens, Colin? When a child gets home, he's left with whom to supervise him? A device. And very often we train children from the time they are born. I'm on the other end on my way to work.
I think the point the caller was making, and I believe both of you made it earlier, is that there probably should be a budget. And if the budget, for example, for the fare is $100, the budget's $100. It's not $500. It's $100. And it doesn't matter whether or not the parent can give you $200. The budget for an activity of that nature is $100, and that's what you get.
But the conversation must take place collectively. What happens very often is that the parents, they make these decisions in silo, on their own. At what age, what is the right age to involve your child or children in what's happening at home? Teach them very early. My son will tell you something, Daddy, don't buy that. It's a fraud. We're not going to buy that. You have to invest in them from a very early age. And listen, I can't, it's not a daddy doesn't want to, daddy, but hello, this is not what's prayer. What is your priority? It's like some parents, they would play mass and they would then forego about the fact that the child or children needs to go to school.
No government assistance.
Oh, yeah. They blame the government there. What is your priority? And I say to parents, your priority is your child or children.
So let's go
into them.
Let's go into priorities now. Within that student handbook should be, well, we do have another caller. I want to get into some academics, but good evening, caller, and welcome.
Hi, good evening to you, gentlemen. Wonderful program. I'm just trying to put a little context to what we're discussing here. I'm seeing 4 components to this whole process of educating a child. Well, there is the society or the media, there is the home, there is the child, and there is the school. We have a situation where we have a number of broken kids, badly influenced by media and other things out there, coming from what we may tend to call homes, but are not real homes. With parents, they may be providers, but then they are non-providers, but they are not real parents. And they're coming into a situation where there are teachers who may be ill-equipped. I'm hearing about the opening of the Teachers College again. I'm talking about somebody who was a teacher for over a decade, and I've been a parent as well. So we have like a perfect storm. Broken kids from broken homes, destroyed by the media and the society, coming in a place with young people like them who are sometimes ill-equipped, untrained. They have some of the same problems that the students have. And when you go into a situation like that, unless you have serious guardrails and boundaries, things can easily bung away. So I think there is a definite need for regulations, protocols that will guide the behavior of the children during the school hours.
Thank you very much for that, caller. And I would add the leadership matters to enforce those regulations and policies, because, you know, it doesn't make sense having them in a handbook and they're not being enforced. But let's try to get into some of the academics. Go ahead.
Before we go into the academics, I just wanted to make one point that I didn't get to make, though. One of the things that I want to see as a PTA president, and something that I've noticed, is that we no longer inculcate this feeling of service, and you're seeing it represented in the fact that parents no longer, you see, like how you said, should parents back off? We want them to be a part and be involved, and the more parents get involved, they would feel that they have a vested interest in what is going on in the school. And as a result, as I say, you see less and less people wanting to take part in fundraising activities, in any involvement in
So you're saying don't send your child to school, bring your child to school.
Bring your child to school. And not just that, and by and large, you setting that example will then pass on that feeling of service, and hopefully that child would embrace that as well. And that is why I think we've come to a place where nobody wants to serve anymore. Yeah.
All right. Some of the challenge that we're seeing, is it some like the bullying and the likes, which are all distractions? Is it a result of our social promotion regime? We have a case now where there's universal secondary education. Everybody goes up, nobody stays down, from one form to the next, and some children are out of place because they learn differently, but schools may not necessarily be equipped to take care of their learning needs. Is that also problematic and contributing to some of the problems that we see?
Yes, in the context of what are they going to achieve academically. You will see that in certain school. This school offers this, another school doesn't offer that. That's one element of it. But I think the underlying problem is a lack of respect across the board. Parents not respecting themselves, understanding their role as parents, and what is it you're required to do. As a parent, your role is to train up a child, give him the best opportunity to become the best person that he can be. As a child, what is your role? Your role and responsibility is to understand what is it that's happening in your life. This is a period for me to learn. I'm investing in self, so it allows me to assume my rightful position in society 20 years from now. The parent doesn't understand their role, and I would most say the mother and father, because they may not necessarily, as Eddie said, they may not be parents. So they do not understand their role, so they neglect it. The children doesn't understand their role. When I go to school, it's not for a teacher to be backing and bellowing behind me. I'm here because I understand 20 years from now, I want to be able to make an economic contribution to my life, to my country. So I am setting the foundation that allows me to do that.
But does the school always allow the students to do that? And I'm saying that we have different learners in the classroom. Are the schools equipped to take care of these different learners?
The school, hold on, Eddie, the school may not. However, the school might be able to help you identify it. Then again, that's where the parents,
but are the schools able to help you identify? And let Eddie go ahead.
I'm so happy that I bring this up, because I think it's about time we revisit the way we look at our education system. And I think it's about time we start expanding the scope, right? You pointed out that, okay, yes, we just to coin an old phrase, we say up, and out. You remember, that's how it used to be. Everybody goes up, right? I will go back even another step further and argue that I'm not sure that our education system in its present form is well equipped to deal with how boys learn, right? And I think it's about time we start revisiting how we look at education. Is our scope wide enough so that even the same persons that may not be as skilled in academics, right, can we now start bringing vocational studies into the secondary
Hold on, and let me just, it's a personal gripe.
Yeah.
technical education is academic.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I hate using the term of academics and non-academics, etc. And that's a personal gripe, because we underestimate the skill set of the technical and vocational skills that people would have to use. You're not blowing a carburetor anymore. If you don't understand physics, you don't understand IT, you don't understand electronics, you can't be a mechanic.
And I agree with you 100%. The reason I use the term academics versus vocational is because for name recognition. Right? Because in our social space, we know how we communicate. It's for communication value.
And my clarification was deliberate. I know that's where you're going.
Yes. Good. So at the end of the day, I appreciate that, and I agree with you 100%, because I have a background in technical maintenance and installation, right? And I would argue that some of the most well-paid jobs and the most fulfilling jobs are vocational, of a vocational nature, right? But I just wanted to say that we need to really look at this, because boys are not always structured. You know, we always hitting on the boys and men, but they are not structured to always sit in a classroom all day. I remember my best times was when we go to Heinze School and we go under the big tree in the Anglican churchyard. That was my best time, when I just didn't want to be cooped up all day in a class. And we have to start looking at these things, and because then you start wondering, are we putting one group at a disadvantage to the other? Right? So we now have to create a structure that works for everyone. We cannot continue to look at education as a monolith and as though it's a one fit for everybody. But right? So we have to look at expanding the school.
But is it that we don't, what you're saying, is it that we don't know that?
Well, is it knowing and acting is two different things.
Well, no,
because as we look at the stats, promotion from primary into secondary, almost equal, boys and girls. Yeah. We tend to lose boys from third form. Getting into puberty, starting to get manhood, identification of self. So third form to fifth form, we start to see the disparity. By the time we get to TAMCC, that increases, universities even further. And therefore, to Eddie's point, while we might know it, while the stats may indicate that we're losing our boys, I don't know we have acted to save our boys.
Well, my son said to me, sitting in a classroom all day in front of teachers doesn't add to his development. He was quite frank about it. Do you want to go to school? He says, he would stop and say, I want to learn. I have no problem in learning. What I have a challenge with is the whole concept of a teacher being in front of me 24 hours a day.
Chalk and talk.
That's not working. This is a modern generation that understands the technology. They appreciate the technology. Yes, the ministry, they've been trying, and I also want to encourage parents, because Jervis and others would say, they would talk about the conversation about screen time. Parents too can answer that conversation. If it's the technology is what you want to use, good. We are going to allow you to use the technology. So the other day, my son and I, we were just using an example. He has this new textbook, Animal Farm. He reads Animal Farm, and he thinks Animal Farm is about just a bunch of wild animals running up and down. I said to him, no. What's the allegory to it? I said, let's go look at it. Go Google it. The Russian Revolution. So we can allow our children to find themselves by the very tools that they have. The problem is not them using the tools, using that digital realm. As parents, are we willing and committing ourselves to be part of the engagement? When a child comes home and he says, do you have homework? What most of us, we tend to do. And I'm saying us loosely, because I'm not one of those. Yes, mommy. Yes, daddy. But do you as a parent, let's go through it. And if a child gets to realize that mommy is truly invested in me, they then realize, what, I can't cut corners with mommy. They wouldn't cut corners with the teacher and tell the teacher, well, I did my homework, however. Because they understand. And that's why I think, honestly, it goes back to whether or not, yes, while the education system may have its challenges and needs a lot of development in areas, I think it really goes back to home. Right. What is or isn't happening at home?
Are our schools safe? Just as a final question, Eddie.
Are schools safe? I would say yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, in the context of, I think we still live in a society that we are by and large are peaceful people, and we would like to think that, that we can resolve conflict in a meaningful way. However, one of the things that I've been passionate about is to implement a security system in schools. Now, at the end of the day, it's something that is very expensive, but it's something that I've discussed from a PTA level, and I've looked at all different ways how we can use something that we spoke on earlier, truancy, and incorporate it into a clocking system and a security system, right? Think of a mechanism that you can put in place when your daughter or your son goes in, whether we give them a card or so that they swipe, right? And that reflects the attendance, right? And we can get to a stage whereby you as a parent get a notification, my son just reached the school, right? And when they clock out just the same, it's the same thing. So now that gives you a certain level of control, security, so that no indiscriminate person just cannot walk on the campus, right? And just before they could confront a teacher, and we live in a time now that we even have gangs infiltrating schools. It requires only once for somebody to be brave enough or to be, may I dare say, stupid enough to decide to want to enter onto a school premises and do something violent, or so, and we can't.
Is security at schools effective? And I'm seeing some schools, they actually have screening now, so you walk under the compound and the bags are searched, etc.
I get the feeling, and while I appreciate while it's done, I think that only indicates how far we've gone from home base. School at that age, education at that age, should not be a place where you figure you're going to get a pat down, and that's what you do to hardcore criminals. Why should I be going when I go to school? My first worry should be they're patting me down. To me, it starts to channel your mind in a different direction. Our young people should be able to go to school and be in an environment that is comfortable, relaxing, and that allows them to learn and expand themselves. There are other individuals that creates challenges. The question is, though, being able to identify those challenges so that we see children in school, Eddie, and we see those tendencies quite early. We know the troublemakers. From since the region form, early days, you see they have a tendency to be overly aggressive. You see they have a tendency, he always poking the child next to you. But the question is, how do we deal with those challenges, identify it, or teachers being invested in sufficiently that they're willing to take their time? Because when we were in school, Eddie, Colin, that's what happened. That's what saved you and I, We had teachers who invested in us. Our teachers these days, are they compensated enough that they feel the need to reinvest their time in our children? Our parents actively involved enough so that the parent can say, you know what, that is Eddie's child. Let me look out for him. So both parties have to play their part. The school's going to play their part. Parents investing, being an active participants in the conversation, and the child in the middle being able to appreciate the teacher. The teacher, when they say to me, keep quiet, it's not because they don't like me, because that's the first thing they say, but it's because they understand there are elements of distraction that's coming to me, and they want to refocus and get me back on track.
Eddie, we're at time, so you got a closing comments.
I have the closing comments. So first of all, I want to say thanks again for having me here. Thanks to all the listeners outside there. But I want to close by saying that, and I want to just even end with something with regards to boys, right? I think too often we look at our boys and our young people in the school and we tend to, to speak about them in a disparaging way. I think all our young people's behavior is learned, right? And if it is a learned behavior, then we have to ask ourselves, or we as parents setting the example of doing a good job or doing an adequate job on behalf of our children. And I would argue that even with specifically to our boys, what is happening right now is tantamount to malpractice, right? And I think that's a whole different conversation to have, but I think right now our parenting structure is not going in our boys' direction, and we need to fix that, because without our men, our society has nowhere going.
Mr. Eddie Montee Greenidge, president of the Anglican High School PTA. Mr. Joseph Cadore, on the other side of the table this evening, thank you so very much as a parent, and to you, the viewers and listeners, for sharing and contributing to this evening's conversation. A very important topic, because it takes a village to raise a child, and we all have to do our parts collaboratively for their success. My name is Colin Dowe, and I look forward to being with you once again 6 days, 22.5 hours from now. Have yourselves a good evening. Godspeed.